Hello, welcome back to the breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a very big lineup of news that I'd like to brief you all on today. So, we're going to start this video off talking about major attacks inside of Russia last night. I've got a lot of videos coming out from the Kursk region, as it looks like Ukraine was launching a retaliatory revenge attack onto Russia for the missile attack that we had on Sunday in the city of Sumy in northeastern Ukraine. So yesterday I reported to you guys that 2 Iskander ballistic missiles were fired into Sumy. This was on Sunday, and directly striking in the city center, we had a trolley bus that was directly hit. And soon after, there was a cluster munition that came in while a lot of people were running over to help those that were trapped inside of the trolley bus. We had a cluster munition coming in and killed many other people. There was well over 30 people who were killed. These were innocent civilians in Ukraine, and over 100 being injured in these attacks. So Ukraine wanted revenge, and it looks like they went after the Kursk region. So take a look at your screen here. Ukraine launches massive drone swarm on Kursk. Several other regions also being targeted. Explosions were heard overnight, and a fire broke out in a residential building in the city of Kursk in Russia. Russia's Ministry of Defense has claimed that a large-scale drone attack had been carried out. Okay, so from what I understand, well over 100 drones were flying into the Kursk region, also targeting other regions as well. But Kursk, we've got a lot of videos coming out. We have an ammunition depot that was destroyed, and also apparently one of the major targets was a rocket brigade or missile brigade within Russia's military that was tasked with carrying out Iskander ballistic missile attacks in Sumy. So yesterday, Kirill Budanov, the head of the GUR in Ukraine, their Directorate of Intelligence, he claimed that apparently this missile brigade was involved with attacking Sumy, so that's why they were attacking the Kursk region last night. So we'll go over all those videos and show you guys that information here in just a minute. And then I also have some information today that Volodymyr Zelensky had dismissed the head of the Sumy Regional Military Administration. And yesterday there was some information floating around that apparently there was a award ceremony being held within the Ukrainian military, and maybe that's why the Russians had carried out this strike. So it makes you wonder if maybe this actually was a military target that the Russians were going after, and it happened to be just located around a lot of civilians, as this head of the regional military administration was dismissed today. So I'll show you that information here in just a little bit. So let's go to jump into the news, guys. You're going to see lots of videos like what you see here in the photo. A lot of high-rise buildings were being struck last night in Kursk, also maybe due to falling drones after they were downed. So take a look at your screen here. Anton Gerashchenko on X, the Ukrainian armed forces attacked a number of facilities in the Kursk region of Russia associated with war criminals involved in the missile attack on Sumy on Palm Sunday and other war crimes against the people of Ukraine, the General Staff reported. In particular, the permanent base of the 448th Rocket Brigade was hit, and secondary detonation of ammunition was recorded. The results of the strike are being clarified. Okay, so you can see here, it was the 448th Rocket Brigade that was being targeted last night. Again, they were responsible for attacking Sumy on Sunday, according to Ukraine's GUR, okay? So let's jump on to another update here from War Translated. During the night, drones launched a massive attack on Kursk. The Russian Ministry of Defense, of course, reported that they shot everything down, specifically 115 drones, 109 of them over the Kursk region. So yeah, Russia's Ministry of Defense claiming they shot down majority of these, if not all of them, but there's lots of videos coming out today of just so much damage inside of the Kursk region. So let's start off with this video here. Pretty action-packed video, lots of explosions from Ukrainian drones last night in the Kursk region of Russia. Take a look at this.
Перекончен еще один нахуй. Пизда. Ебанулся. Союзный пиздец, короче.
All right, so my apologies. There is a little bit of profanity in this video with the subtitles, but we can see lots of damage being reported inside of Kursk last night. Multiple fires breaking out. Lots of drones crashing into residential buildings last night, whether they be shot down or suppressed by electronic warfare. We did have reports also, I believe, that one woman, an 85-year-old woman, had lost her life. This report's going to talk about that. 9 others injured. So let's go over this report here with Astra. A Ukrainian drone crashed into an apartment building in Kursk. 85-year-old woman was killed. 9 others were injured. Eyewitness footage also shows a private house catching fire after the attack. Okay, so this first video is going to be that apartment building that caught fire after a Ukrainian drone crashed into it. We also have a residential house that caught on fire as well. Let's start off with this first video here.
Охренеть. Вот и поспали. Теперь людей нету. Вот тебе и... Это между Дайнеки и Заводской.
All right, so very sad to have to report this, but unfortunately, an 85-year-old woman had lost her life in her apartment as we had one of these Ukrainian drones crashing into them. So very sad to have to report that. We'll jump on to another update, another video here coming up.
37-я школа, вот она. Это пизда.
All right, so just a quick 10-second clip here, but we can see somebody's home also catching on fire due to one of these drones falling and landing on this house here. So lots of attacks inside of the Kursk region last night. Here's another one from Max 24. Strike on Russian positions and detonation of ammunition in the Kursk region. So this is again the 448th Rocket Brigade that was being targeted over here, that was tasked with carrying out strikes inside of Ukraine. Primarily in Sumy, we've been having a lot of Iskander ballistic missiles being fired over there. This is the same brigade that carries out these attacks. So it looks like we had some homes destroyed over here, and looks like they were being used to store ammunition. Take a look at this video. All right, so we can hear what sounds like popcorn, and that's all that ammunition detonating over here. Probably a lot of small arms ammunition that's maybe being used by the Russian forces. As we know, that Ukraine is still inside the Kursk region. As far as we know, they have not completely pulled out yet. So we've got some ammunition that was destroyed over here as well. Jump on to another update from Max 24. UAVs attack on Russia at night. 30 explosions in Kursk. 115 UAVs targeted 5 regions in Russia. Okay, so here's a few pictures coming out. We can see fire and debris falling out from the side of this apartment unit as it caught on fire due to one of those drones crashing. Here's what looks like another fire, maybe on another building. Here you can see some windows with lights on it, so it's probably another side of a residential apartment that was hit. And this video, unfortunately, or picture, excuse me, very hard to tell what we're looking at here, but it looks like there's a major fire here also, potentially on another residential building. Okay, so lots of residential buildings hit last night. Now we got another update here from Max 24, and he shared a post that was most likely translated from Russian, as lots of Russian Telegram channels report things, information in regards to some of these attacks. It was obvious that after the attack on Sumy, there would be something in response. It's hard to call it a blow of retribution. After all, the Krests are not that strong, but they are quite capable of doing nasty things. And here our insanity begins. The Krests almost announced that they had the 448th Missile Brigade in their sights, which they had designated as one responsible for the shelling of Sumy. Its temporary deployment point in the area of the village of Kliuvka, if I'm saying that right, in the Kursk region was an open secret. Well, increase vigilance, disperse the personnel, nothing of the sort. The Ministry of Defense reports that 109 UAVs were shot down over the Kursk region. It is very convenient to write how many were shot down, although it is more important how many survived, and more than 150 flew to Kliuvka. It's kind of hard to say, guys, sorry. So at least 31 drones flew to where they were aimed. I won't say that the 448th Brigade ceased to exist. It was large, and only part of it was in the Kursk region, but it has never had such losses that could have been completely avoided. Now the Holhols can really call it a blow of retribution. They didn't believe it. They underestimated it. Not for the first time. No conclusions are being drawn. Okay, so we're still kind of waiting for more information coming out on the extent of all the damages, but we know that an ammunition depot was struck, and potentially this entire complex that is involved with launching these ballistic missile attacks onto Ukraine could have been struck and destroyed last night, but we'll wait for more information. This was one of the Russian Telegram channels writing about that just last night. Now, also from Max 24, here's another one as well. And it says, Archangel of Special Forces. In the context of the Kursk direction, another problem has emerged. Ukrainian formations have begun using new types of drones. The mother drone, the main large UAV, is equipped with mounts for FPV drones. A large drone is launched in the direction of our territories at a distance of 20 to 40 kilometers. Once a similar one was recorded at a distance of 50 kilometers from the line of contact. Flying to the rear, the UAV releases FPV drones attached to it and strikes the rear areas. Such strikes are increasingly observed in different areas of the Kursk direction. In essence, everything is done according to a simple scheme, but this is significant increases on FPV range, which was previously limited close to the rear. Now the Ukrainian armed forces have learned to overcome these distances. The enemy is actively developing. The work of the Ukrainian armed forces BKs in the Black Sea is built on a similar principle where FPV BKs are also increasingly operating, in which they strike the coastal areas of Crimea. We urgently need to make up for the lost time, otherwise we could face huge problems since the Ukrainian armed forces are becoming increasingly widespread in their use of such UAVs. Okay, so it looks like the Russians, according to this post, are very worried about Ukraine's advancement in technology with a lot of their UAVs. I mean, they've been releasing so many different types, whether it be land-based drones or aerial drones, FPV drones, sea-based drones like their Sea Baby Magura V5s that they use. Also, I mean, there's a lot of different drones now where they can attach FPV drones to the tops of them, which are small first-person view quadcopter drones. They can use that to attack other targets on top of the aerial attack drones that they're using currently. So, yeah, definitely. I've said this many times before that Ukraine is for sure innovating crazy amounts of different types of drones that they're using in this war. And the further this war goes along, the more advanced Ukraine is getting with their drone usage. So, obviously, the Russians are very worried about that. Now, from Nexta, just in, Zelensky has dismissed the head of the Sumy Regional Military Administration, Artyuk. According to the government representative in the Verkhovna Rada, Melnichuk, sorry guys, very tough to pronounce these today, Suspilny reports that Artyuk, in a comment yesterday, essentially confirmed the military award ceremony in Sumy before the strike on April 13th, but stated he was not the initiator. Previously, Member of Parliament Mariana Bezula, former Deputy Eor Mosishuk, and the Mayor of Konotop, Artem Semenikin, man, these are tough today, stated that the head of the Sumy Regional Military Administration, Artyuk, organized an event in Sumy to award the military of the 117th Brigade. Okay, so again, was there a military ceremony going on in Sumy on Sunday when this attack took place? Because the Russians reported that they carried out an attack on a group or gathering of Ukrainian soldiers. So maybe that was the target. Maybe the Russians were going after this ceremony. I mean, we've seen the Ukrainians do the same thing to the Russians, like up in the Kursk region, I think even in the Belgorod region before. So I guess it could be possible that that's the reason why we had the head of the Sumy Regional Military Administration, Artyuk, being taken away from his position just today, okay? Maybe that's the reason why they carried out that strike, and he would be directly responsible if it was him for this attack on Sumy if the Russians happen to get that information that they were going to be holding this ceremony, okay? So very sad if that was the case for the reason why all these people lost their lives. Now from the Ukrainian Review, 6 Russian UAVs attacked industrial zone of Sloviansk. 1 person injured, a state emergency service reported. Damaged car wash building, service station, 18 cars, and 5 industrial facilities. Okay, so this was the only report that I saw today inside of Ukraine where we had Russian drones damaging any type of civilian equipment, industrial equipment inside of Ukraine. So it looks like 6 UAVs crashed into this industrial zone in Sloviansk, okay? And I think there were somewhere around 50 Russian drones going into Ukraine last night, so not too many. Now we'll move on to some other updates here from Max 24. The U.S. has told G7 allies that it will not support a statement condemning Russia's strike on Sumy because it wants to continue negotiations with Moscow. And this was reported by Bloomberg today, okay? This is probably one of the highlights of the war today. As we heard recently, just over the last day or so that Donald Trump, the U.S. president, came out and basically refused to condemn the strike on Sumy, and he basically just said it was a horrible mistake that the Russians, carried out this attack, as we had again well over 100 people being wounded and killed in this strike on Sumy on Sunday. And it looks like the U.S. is not going to come out and condemn this at all because they want to continue negotiations with Russia. So you guys can let me know what you think about that. I'm sure that will upset some people there. Now, from the Ukrainian Review, a group of British members of parliament has proposed that the UK government support the creation of a joint UK-Ukrainian Center for the production and development of defense technologies. The initiative is aimed at accelerating arms supplies to Ukraine while creating jobs in the UK and stimulating the development of British defense production. It is proposed to redirect part of the annual defense aid to Ukraine in the amount of £3 billion to finance the production of military equipment on British territory, with subsequent direct delivery to Ukraine and partial replenishment of its own armed forces. Okay, so looks like the UK is going to be getting more involved with helping out Ukraine and their defense industry. So that's very big news coming out today from the Brits. Now, moving on to another update from Ozen Defender. Russia looks to base strategic assets in Indonesia. Reports are now surfacing that Russia has requested basing for long-range strategic bombers in Indonesia. Janes, citing unnamed Indonesian officials close to the matter, has seemingly confirmed earlier reporting that Indonesian decision makers were indeed approached by the Russian counterparts back in February 2025. The Russian request for such a deal, which Australian officials say has yet to be decided on, would put Russian strike assets, presumably Chinese as well, within range of key U.S. and partner nation installations. Additional, so what? While the move is alarming to both U.S. and regional decision makers, it could be said that it isn't an unexpected development. Indonesia is abreast a key maritime choke point and is in close proximity to Australia, who has deepened military-to-military cooperation with the U.S., drawing protests from both China and Russia. Sino-Russian military-to-military cooperation has increased exponentially since the start of the war in Ukraine. Nowhere has this been more clear than in the Western Pacific, where Russia has made notable strides toward not only enlarging but also modernizing its long-neglected Pacific fleet. As a result, Sino-Russian joint operations have increased, and both nations have increasingly telegraphed aligned strategic outlooks for the Indo-Pacific. Okay, so down here near Papua New Guinea, I think is how you pronounce it. I think this is West Papua. In this area over here, it looks like that's where they want to try to potentially station some strategic bombers over here. The Russians want to, that is. And I believe on the northern side of Australia, we have Darwin Air Base that's located not too far from there, and U.S. soldiers are based over there. So Australia is definitely worried about this right now. There was some reports also coming out today that Papua New Guinea was stating that this is not true, that the Russians are not trying to do this. So I'm not 100% on this, but there's a lot of reports today coming out on X talking about this, that the Russians are trying to get some sort of base located over here in Indonesia, that they'd be able to base strategic bombers. Okay, so very big news today, and I have another quick update on that also from Vicegrad24 breaking. James writes that the Russian Air Force could be about to lease a military airbase in Indonesia. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has asked Indonesia to clarify the situation. We obviously don't want to see a Russian influence in our region, Albanese says. Okay, so as we can see here, again, Australia very concerned about this base being located over here just a little bit to the north of Australia, and Russia would be on their doorstep and within striking distance of Australia. Okay, so they're definitely concerned about that today. Now for Max 24, Collis forced to retreat after her plan to create a €40 billion fund to provide military aid to Ukraine failed, according to Publico. She failed to secure the support of key allies in the EU. As a result, Collis proposed an alternative to transfer 2 million shells to Ukraine for a total of €5 billion. The funds for this are planned to be collected through voluntary contributions from EU member states. Okay, so we talked about this €40 billion plan that Kaja Kallas was talking about several weeks ago, and it looked like it had some good support, but apparently it has fallen flat, and it looks like many EU member states are not open to providing aid for this €40 billion. It looks like Ukraine won't be getting this anytime soon, but we'll see if maybe that will change in the future, okay? Now for Max 24, Peskov. There are no clear outlines of any agreement yet, but there is political will to move towards this agreement. And I repeat once again, we very, very positively evaluate the constructive and meaningful contacts that have taken place. So this is Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman. He's just coming out today with an update basically stating there's no agreement on trying to end this war yet, but apparently Russia's still open to negotiating. We'll see how things go in the future, but right now there's definitely a stalling tactic that it appears that Russia's carrying out right now, probably to try to gain more territory in the Eastern Front. And we know that the Russians want to try to take over more land inside of Ukraine and possibly take control of all the 5 territories that they're currently controlling inside of Ukraine. Here's another update from Max 24. A peaceful solution in Ukraine involves its nuclear-free status, the abolition of discriminatory laws, and recognition of the sovereignty of Russia's borders, according to Sergei Narishkin. So he's the head of their foreign intelligence in Russia, and he's also a Russian politician, and we've talked about him a few times in the past. So this was something he came out stating today, and one of the big ones here is recognition of sovereignty of Russia's borders. And we know that Russia wants to take control of the 5 territories that they currently control, like Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, especially those inside of Ukraine that they don't fully control. They're demanding that that Ukraine recognize those territories as Russian. And we've heard many times that Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has come out and stated that they will never recognize those territories as Russian. So once again, more demands coming from the Russian side that will probably never be met by Ukraine. Now, Max 24 reports RA Novosti, showed how Russian operators control drones that kill our military from an office in Moscow City. According to the rules of warfare, this office can be considered a legitimate military target. This was actually a video that was coming out today, but these are just kind of screenshots from this video showing these Russian military personnel that are using computers and joysticks to control UAV drones that go into Ukraine all the way from the city of Moscow. So could Ukraine start targeting Moscow now? I think maybe we might start to see that in the future. But these were just some snapshots showing this, where they can control these UAV drones that they fly into Ukraine all the way from Moscow, okay? Now for Max 24, North Korean workers at a warehouse in Electrostal in the Moscow region, the DPRK has a practice of leasing its citizens, okay? So we've talked about this before, where the North Koreans are actually sending their citizens over to Russia to help work in a lot of their factories, also helping out in their war production. So it's actually the first time we've seen video like this. I wanted to show you guys just 2 quick clips here. Take a look at this.
No. No.
Okay, so if you notice, all these North Korean women that are walking over here inside of Moscow, probably heading over to some of the factories to work in them, it's all women, okay? No men, actually, from what I can see here in this video. We've got one more video coming up next. All right, so it makes you wonder how many citizens have been shipped over to Russia from North Korea, but we can see here lots of women in this one facility probably heading on over to work, and you can see they're even wearing the same kind of clothing too. So pretty crazy video coming out from there. Here's another update from North Korea, also from Savchenko Vladimir. North Korea supplies half of Russia's ammunition needs on the front for the war against Ukraine, according to Reuters. North Korea's contribution reached 70%. At times, Russian artillery units used almost exclusively North Korean ammunition. The shells are transported by rail to warehouses near the Russian-Ukrainian border, mainly in Tikhoretsk. In 2024, Russia's independently produced 2 to 2.3 million shells and plans to increase the volume to 3 million per year in the future. So this is not surprising also. I mean, we've been hearing that North Korea supplies a lot of weapons, especially artillery shells for Russia in this war. And to think that North Korea is supplying half of their ammunition needs, like that's absolutely insane to think about. And imagine if they didn't have North Korea to help them out. Would they be able to produce their own weapons for this war? But this is more show that the North Koreans are becoming more and more involved in this war, as they're supplying now 50% or more of ammunition needs on the front line. Now from Max 24, the EU is looking for a legal way to terminate gas contracts with Russia without having to pay penalties, according to Financial Times. Brussels is considering declaring a force majeure situation, which would allow European companies to legally withdraw from long-term gas supply contracts with Russia. While the share of Russian pipeline gas in EU imports have dropped significantly from 40% in 2022 to just 11% now, Russian liquefied natural gas exports to Europe have actually increased over the past 3 years. Okay, so here's a report from Financial Times. EU explores legal options for ending Russian gas deals. Brussels says invoking force majeure clause would allow contract termination without penalties. Okay, so looks like the EU is trying to look for ways to get out of trying to purchase Russian gas and get out of some of the deals that they might be locked into for several years. It's interesting though, because we've also been hearing that many EU member states, like for example France and Germany, have also been thinking about starting up more purchases of liquefied natural gas or maybe just fuel from Russia in general. We'll have to see how this goes, but we're kind of seeing like a back and forth thing. Like 1 minute the EU wants to pull away from Russian gas, next minute they're going to start resuming it. But this was a report coming out today from the Financial Times. Now for Max 24 again, AFU have entered the Belgorod region. The task is to pull the enemy's reserves away from the Kursk and Kharkiv regions, according to People's Deputy Kostenko. Already now, more than 13 square kilometers in the Belgorod region are in the gray zone. It also became known that AFU regained control over Dnipro Energia, if I'm saying that right, and managed to improve the tactical position in two critical directions. Currently, the Russians are preparing to attack the Sumy and Cherniv regions in order to have an additional trump card in possible negotiations. Okay, so we've been hearing about this attack on the Sumy, also Kharkiv regions and Cherniv regions. In terms of the Belgorod region, this is just a quick update to let you guys know the Ukrainians apparently are still in the Belgorod region, and they're trying to pull enemy reserves away from Kursk and Kharkiv regions to get them to fight in Belgorod. Now for Max 24, Trump's special envoy Witkoff says a Ukraine peace deal would include settling the issue of 5 territories, security protocols, and other geopolitical elements, although being difficult. Okay, so this was Steve Witkoff yesterday on Fox News with Sean Hannity. And last week, Steve Witkoff met with the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, okay? And apparently this is what he's stating coming out from those talks last week, is he's saying that one of the big parts of the peace deal would include settling the issue of the 5 territories. So once again, we know that Russia wants to control the 5 territories that they have partial control of aside from Crimea right now. And they still want Ukraine to recognize those territories as Russian and for them to withdraw their troops from those areas. And again, I don't see Ukraine doing that. We have some responses actually from Volodymyr Zelensky today in regards to Steve Witkoff. Now from next up, NATO Secretary Ruda visited Odessa with Ukrainian President Zelensky. He stated the people of Ukraine have endured so much, including Russia's Palm Sunday attack on Sumy. NATO support is unwavering. We'll keep helping Ukraine defend itself today and deter future aggression, ensuring a just and lasting peace. So this was coming out from today, a picture of Volodymyr Zelensky and Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, as he visited Odessa to meet with Zelensky today. If I have a few updates on that also. The Ukrainian Review, Zelensky, together with Mark Rutte, we visited a hospital where Ukrainian defenders are recovering from their wounds. We spoke with our warriors. I presented state awards to our defenders. I also presented awards to the combat medics. Okay, so a few pictures coming out here today. Here's Zelensky and Mark Rutte. Some of the wounded soldiers also being given awards inside of Odessa. Here's a picture of probably one of the soldiers taking a photo here with Zelensky and Mark Rutte also. And just a little photo here on the wall that was, looks like it was colored in with some crayons. So pretty cool looking picture right there. Now for Max 24, for us, these are red lines. To recognize any temporarily occupied territories as Russian, Witkoff discusses issues beyond his competence, says Zelensky. Britain, France, and other NATO countries are already actively preparing the basis for a security contingent. It's important that we be quick and effective in this process, okay? So he's talking about the security contingent to Ukraine if we happen to see this war coming to an end. Are European allies going to send their own soldiers into Ukraine to ensure Ukraine's sovereignty? We'll have to see how that goes. But he's also responding here in this conference with Mark Rutte, talking about Steve Witkoff and him pretty much coming out claiming that Ukraine needs to recognize these territories. That's a major demand from Russia. Again, like I've stated many times, we know that Ukraine is not going to do that, okay? Now, from X24, the EU is considering the possibility of sending military advisors to Ukraine to work as part of a mission to train Ukrainian military personnel, said the Hungarian foreign minister. Now, we know that Hungary is very pro-Russia, so you guys can let me know whether you believe that's true or not. A lot of people believe that he's probably lying about this, or maybe this is some sort of, Russian propaganda, whatever it might be. But yeah, he basically came out stating today, or yesterday evening, excuse me, that the EU is considering sending military advisors into Ukraine. Now, we've heard this many times in the past, and so far the EU's never done that. Could they do that? Maybe it's possible at some point, but that was what he was claiming today. Let me know what you guys think on that. Now for Bliskovka, Brussels is preparing a plan B in case Hungary blocks the extension of sanctions against Russia in June. This is reported by Radio Liberty journalist Ricard Zovsiak. Kind of hard to pronounce that one. EU sanctions formally consist of two documents, a decision and a resolution. Only resolution needs to be renewed every 6 months. The decision is valid indefinitely unless revoked by a qualified majority. This allows sanctions to be maintained even in the event of a veto by Hungary. Okay, so we've been hearing a lot recently that Hungary is going to start vetoing all kinds of different things in terms of Ukraine. Also, Ukraine trying to get into the EU. So this was a report today. Brussels sanctions backup plan, visa-free travel rules face overhaul. Okay, so looks like EU is trying to create some sort of plan B. Also, as sanctions need to be extended sometime in June onto Russia, and Hungary may try to block that. Okay, we've been seeing Hungary just blocking all kinds of things, more in favor for Russia and against Ukraine. We know the EU heavily stands with Ukraine right now, so it looks like they're going to run into some issues trying to deal with Hungary down the road in terms of some of the policies towards Russia. Now from Max 24, Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives introduced legislation on Monday to bolster Ukraine in its war with Russia. Reuters reported today, Ukraine Support Act would provide security and reconstruction funding for Ukraine and impose steep sanctions on Russia. So this was a very big report today. Yeah, U.S. House Democrats coming out and introducing new legislation that's going to put very heavy sanctions onto Russia and basically start to force them to end this war, and also providing Ukraine with security and reconstruction funding after this war comes to an end to help them rebuild their nation. So that was very, very big news coming out today from the U.S. Now, NOAA reports the National Guard of Ukraine has formed two new corps. They will be led by the commanders of the 12th Special Forces Brigade, Azov, Lieutenant Colonel Denis Prokopenko, and the 13th Operational Brigade, Kartia, if I'm saying that right, Colonel Ior Obolensky. Okay, so these were pictures coming out today. So two new corps that Ukraine's National Guard is creating. So more expansion of the Ukrainian military here. Here's just a few photos coming out from that today. Okay, so big news coming out for Ukraine's military. Now for Bliskovka, Ukrainian armed forces liberated the village of Dnipro and Uria in the Donetsk region, said Suri Nayev, commander of the Volodar Tactical Group. I've been in command of the tactical group for 2 months. During this period, we managed to reduce the loss of personnel by 20%, as well as improve the tactical situation in two critical areas, Nayev added. Okay, so this was a picture coming out from the Donetsk region. So Ukrainian armed forces liberating another village in Donetsk. Okay, so what we've been seeing more recently is the Ukrainians are taking over more territory versus the Russians are. The Russians aren't really advancing a whole lot. Ukraine's been launching a lot of counterattacks. Looks like they were able to liberate a village in the Donetsk region. This would be in southeastern Ukraine. Okay. Now from the Ukrainian Review, Trump and Witkoff believe Putin, although Trump's entourage asked to be tougher on Russia, according to the Wall Street Journal. Several senior officials in Trump's entourage advise him to be more skeptical of Moscow's statements about wanting peace with Ukraine. Such advice is given in particular by Rubio and Kellogg. Trump shares the opinion of his special envoy Witkoff. Witkoff believes that Putin wants peace in Ukraine. Do you guys believe that Putin wants peace in Ukraine? That's what Witkoff believes. Former senior U.S. State Department official told Wall Street Journal that the department, together with the Treasury Department, is preparing options for strengthening sanctions against Russia. Officials believe they have political cover to consider tightening sanctions. He said if Trump really decides he's had enough of Putin. Okay, so do you think also that the U.S. will eventually hammer Russia with sanctions? Maybe in the event that Russia comes out in the end, they're like, you know what, we're not ready to end this war, we want to keep it going. I'm sure that the U.S. is going to have to respond at some point. This could be months down the road. But right now, what we've been seeing is the U.S. is not able to end this war. Donald Trump keeps saying he's going to be able to end it, but so far has been very unsuccessful doing so. This war continues, and we're still having a lot of innocent people on both sides losing their lives, and many men in both militaries also dying in this horrible war. So hopefully it does come to a safe end at some point soon. Now for Max 24, against the backdrop of news about the end of the war in Moscow, the number of people wishing to sign a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense has increased in order to jump on the last train and receive payments. So yeah, it looks like we've got a chart here that shows right at the beginning of April here, we've got a major surge in requests of men that want to join the military in Russia, as we're hearing that maybe this war is going to come to an end, and lots of people want to get on the bandwagon and start receiving payments and make some money before this war comes to an end, okay? So these were contractors from Moscow, a little chart here to show you guys that. Now for Max 24, new surface drone Katron equipped with containers for launching kamikaze drones in service with the RVC. Okay, so these are new photos that came out just today showcasing this new Katron drone. And we talked about this, I think it was on the 25th of March, sometime at the end of March last month. And we did a whole video on this, that Ukraine had unveiled this new Katron drone. It's like a new, basically it's a boat that has like missiles on it. It's got some sort of electronic warfare systems. It's got FPV drones. It's got torpedoes, I believe. All kinds of different things are used on this. So these were new photos coming out from Ukraine's military. Okay, guys? So a couple more things to share with you before we get you out here. I apologize, a little bit longer video today. So for Max 24, Ukrainian air defense shot down 26 out of 52 Shahed UAVs, 19 drones suppressed by electronic warfare, 0 out of 1 Iskander-M or KN-23. Okay, so we had 1 ballistic missile being fired into Ukraine last night, 52 in total, looks like about half shot down, 19 more being suppressed by electronic warfare. There's your daily little diagram to show you how many drones were shot down by Ukrainian armed forces yesterday. Now our final update of the day from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of April 15th, according to the armed forces of Ukraine. So our final update here, guys, Russia's losses as of April 15th, 1,180 troops, 20 AFVs, 210 vehicles and fuel tanks, 7 tanks, 68 artillery systems, 147 UAVs, and 2 MLRS and 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems. Okay, so still a lot of equipment today being destroyed. One of the biggest numbers here, we see over 200 vehicles and fuel tanks. Yesterday, I think we were up to like 180 or 190, somewhere around there. So today it looks like it broke 200. So lots of equipment still being destroyed, and the troop numbers a little bit lower than what we've been seeing, right around 1,300. So just over the last 24 hours, right under 1,200. So lots of huge news coming out from this update today, guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the very end if you're still here. And I hope you guys all have a great day today on April 15th, 2025 on Tuesday. So thank you so much for tuning in for this update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.